I'm Nate, and today let's look at Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 11, Metamorphosis. In this episode, the Bad Batch attempt to seize cargo from a wrecked Imperial cargo ship. Once inside the ship, they find out why it crashed and seek to stop the problem from spreading. Written by Sabir Perzada, a writer for the CW series Roswell, New Mexico, Episode 11 was released on March 1st, 2023 on Disney+. The episode starts with an eerie scene in which a ship comes out of hyperspace in a cloud of smoke and destruction. Inside, the ship has been torn apart and a lone clone commando runs for his life before he is snatched up, screaming as he is clearly being eaten by something. In a couple of the previous episodes, we've hit on familiarities with the Indiana Jones franchise, in particular Episode 5, which literally had music from the franchise as its soundtrack. In this episode, when the Bad Batch reaches the downed Imperial ship, they find it in a forest, and the vibe of the scene is very similar to the opening sequence of the movie E.T. The guys in Omega make their way through the forest at night as their flashlights blast light through the dense trees, just like the FBI agents in E.T. But then we get to the ship and it seems to take a darker turn and feels more like an alien movie than E.T., replete with slime, creepy monster, and everything. As the season goes on, I'm wondering if there is somewhat of a challenge to the writing team to use imagery from Steven Spielberg movies. Even the Doomsday creature in Episode 5 reminded me of War of the Worlds. We'll talk more about this in a moment though. Back on the ship, the guys find out that the monster is an enhanced Zilla Beast clone that the Empire developed. The Zilla Beast grows every time it gets energy from a power source. It escapes the confines of the ship and heads towards a local village which has a large power plant feeding the village. As it feeds on the electricity, the villagers look on. The Empire soon shows up to collect its creation and capture any villagers who witness the events. Fortunately, the guys get away. The monster story is interesting, but the bigger plot points for the season come from the side story. We're taken to Mount Tantus at the beginning of the episode, where Nayla Se ended up at the end of Season 1. An Imperial official by the name of Dr. Hemlock arrives to visit Nayla Se, and we find out that she has refused to help the Empire with their cloning experiments, which has landed her in confinement. Dr. Hemlock expresses his dissatisfaction with Nayla Se's refusal to cooperate and seeks to convince her that her research is still intact and will serve a higher purpose than the galaxy. It will serve the Emperor's purpose. I found this interaction to be particularly interesting. My first reaction was that Dr. Hemlock can easily be replaced by another sinister and devious doctor who we are all familiar with. With all the politicking and attempts to not only silence resistance to the evil doctor's agenda, but to force those who resist to buy into the lies, the way that Dave Filoni is developing the Empire is much more modern than its original Nazi Germany influence, and therefore much more relatable to the newer generations. After some thought, I came to another plausible, yet too juicy to be probable, conclusion. In late January of 2023, the YouTube channel Overlord DVD reported that Jon Favreau threatened to leave if Kathleen Kennedy didn't stop meddling in his projects. We know that the Bad Batch is not one of his projects. However, we do know that Jon and Dave Filoni work closely together and seem to share the same vision for Star Wars. If we pause for a moment and rewatch this scene replacing Dr. Hemlock and his reference to the Emperor with Kathleen Kennedy and Nayla Se with Jon Favreau, we get a rather interesting look into the dynamics at Lucasfilm. Although the imagery relating to Indiana Jones, E.T., War of the Worlds, and probably other things I've missed might seem innocuous on the surface, in light of this scene, those references to popular Steven Spielberg movies now seem like a reminder to Kennedy that she would be nothing without Spielberg's success, but that they, Jon and Dave, have built their success on their own. Back to the scene, Dr. Hemlock is briefed on the downed clone ship and has his team launch a recovery mission. The team not only recovers the asset, but they also capture anyone who saw the beast, except that the Bad Batch got away. Dr. Hemlock also requests the Kaminoan Prime Minister to be fetched. When Lama Su arrives, it's a surprising moment because we got the impression at the end of Season 1 that he was killed by the Empire. Dr. Hemlock tells Lama Su that he brought him to Mount Tantus to help convince Nayla Se to take part in the Empire's cloning operations. Lama Su makes a deal with Hemlock to provide information on how to control Nayla Se in exchange for his freedom. I thought we'd actually get through this whole episode without any mention or theme of freedom, but here we get an example of what someone would do to secure his own freedom. In this case, Lama Su is willing to throw one of his own under the bus in order to be free. He tells Dr. Hemlock that Omega is the key to influencing Nayla Se. Find the female clone child and Dr. Hemlock will have what he wants from Nayla Se. I think that Lama Su's willingness to give up information on Nayla Se and Omega in exchange for his freedom is a foreshadow to what Sid might do to the Bad Batch. She is under the spell of her own ambition, as indicated by her constant reminder to the guys that whatever the new job is, it can make them a lot of money. After the guys get off the holovid with Sid, Tech notes that she knows too much about them and bailing on her might not be a good idea. If the Empire thinks the Bad Batch is dead, then that puts a kink in the hose of them finding Omega. However, I think this is where Rampart will show up again. He knows they are still alive. And I also think that's where Sid will be confronted with a choice to rat out the guys or protect them. And right now we know that Sid is still concerned with only herself. And the guys know it. I think ultimately Sid will rat them out because she's in bondage to her own ambition. But soon after, I think she will have regrets and figure out a way to help the guys in Omega. Overall, I thought this episode was okay. I'm not much of a monster movie fan, but I like the side story and the clues we got concerning the Empire's cloning operations, and the renewed focus on getting Omega are interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, and if you like the content and the deeper discussion into the themes found in Star Wars, please hit the like button and subscribe to keep me in your feed.